The dork you grew up with on radio for 40 years is now in a tidy digital place. Doc on Demand, where you pick the topics, then you be on the dang podcast. Live now in the Eagle app.
It's another episode of Doc on Demand. This will be the strangest one of all for pretty obvious reasons. Well, number one, I'm at home. Number two, the guest this week is my wife. Say hello.
Hello.
It's my wife, Angie. So the reason that she's guesting on the podcast this week, I want to dive into something which I actually think is really funny, but I also don't fully understand the backstory, because I've mentioned on the radio show before that I'm actually kind of related to the real John Henry Doc Holliday, but the connection is funny. This is not like great granddad. It's the opposite of that. So before I get into this, explain a little bit about yourself. Well, you and I have been together for 20 years now. So prior to me meeting you, you were studying to be a meteorologist. Explain what was going on.
I went to college for a long time, and I eventually decided to be a meteorologist after studying astronomy and doing lots of math. So I guess the math maybe warped my brain or something. And
so that led to an extreme lapse of judgment where I entered the picture. And we have a wonderful marriage. We have 4 amazing kids.
Amazing kids.
But the purpose of this isn't to talk all about the immediate family. I wanted to dive in. My wife, so this began years ago. She became interested in genealogy. And actually, I can begin this story with something that happened before my wife entered the picture. Back, I can't remember what year. I was thinking it was like 1994 or 1995. I got a weird phone call. I was living with my parents at the time, and there was somebody that was calling asking for my dad, who was named Bob Holliday. Holliday's a real name, Holliday. And it was an author who was writing a book about Doc Holliday and his family, and she was looking for my dad. Said she had actually traced some of the family indirectly back to our part of Missouri, Illinois area, and I didn't think anything of it. I'm like, well, yeah, I took message and I told her what I knew about my grandma and grandpa, and didn't really think anything about it. Just kind of brushed it off like, well, that was kind of weird. And so leading up to years later, when I met Angie and then she got interested in genealogy, I'm like, oh, by the way, I think there is a Doc Holliday connection because of this strange author phone call that I got years ago. So that actually led her to start working on our family tree. My cousin Dawn was a big help. I had several other family members that were kind to share some of the information they had with Angie. So explain how your genealogy search into this began.
I didn't know anything about genealogy, but anyway, I started digging into things and went from whatever information you and the family could give me and started plugging in names and trying to figure things out. And I don't know, I just kind of hit a big wall. I didn't know where to go next. And I kind of let it sit for a while because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, so as I remember, you picked it up after about a year or two delay, and there was some sort of a breakthrough. I can't remember if it was an email that you got from Ancestry. There was some key part of the family tree, and I could be remembering wrong, but I thought that it was a John Holliday that lived in St. Louis back in the early 1900s. I can't remember exactly. But he, as I recall, ended up being one of the key connections to the rest of the Holliday family that goes all the way back to Georgia, to Doc's family. But this is where it actually kind of gets funny. So I'll never forget the night where my wife said, I've got it. And you shared with me, you said, I know how we're related to Doc. And I'm gonna read this, and then you can add to it. She said, you're the first cousin twice removed of the wife of the nephew of the wife of the first cousin, twice removed of the wife of the first cousin, 4 times removed of the husband. Is that right? Is that accurate?
Something like that. It's crazy. I don't really understand all of this. But yes, you do have very solid ancestry background information to John James Holliday, who is a well-known St. Louis person. And then everything between him and your more immediate family, Northeast Missouri, all that is very well documented. It's before that where it gets really kind of...
Yeah, you said there's a lot of non-holidays that are
yeah.
actually in the family tree between us and John Henry's family, right?
There's several names in here that aren't holidays, and then it connects back up to holidays, several family connections before you connect to him exactly. So I don't know.
So the other funny part of this is in the process of this genealogy search into the holidays. And by the way, if I grew up in Hannibal, I think a lot of people that listen to the Eagle knew me probably either from school or whatever. But I'm related to almost all the Eppersons, Frankenbachs, Votes, Tuckers, all throughout Northeast Missouri. We have so many family members that live in this area. But in the process of all this, we found out that there's a lot of other families that are connected to us, like the Bush family, the presidents. That we're actually closer related to George W. than we are to Doc, aren't we?
Yes, and that's through...
Because he's like a fifth cousin.
He's through John James Holliday again. But yeah, it's like way closer. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So anyway, I didn't want to. I try not to share too much personal stuff on the radio show or on our through our brand, but this just struck me. I get asked about this all the time because I think everybody has heard us mention that we're related. It's just that it's just so hilarious how distant it is. So it's not a big deal. It doesn't make us special or something. I actually thought it was funny to have Angie share some of the details about how all this connection goes, right?
Oh, yeah. It's been fun. It's been a lot of digging and lots of research and things, but anybody who's like currently alive is really hard to find in your family tree because of privacy and stuff. And then there's just tons of information about all the people who are gone, but it makes it really tricky to connect all the dots and stuff. So
yeah, one other part of this, my wife's incredibly shy, so I appreciate her being brave and being willing to explore this. I just thought this was something that maybe there's somebody out there that's curious about this, that they'll get a laugh out of this. The distant, weird Doc Holliday connection to the radio guy. How strange is that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely strange.
Doc on Demand. No rules, no rails, no kidding. Now in the 100.9 Eagle app, you've been warned.